Hello Mzansi, welcome back to yet another episode of Farmers Inside Track, Food from Mzansi's podcast in partnership with Nestlé Nespray. I'm your host, Lisa Kanyavena. As we close off June and wrap up the World Milk Day month, we continue to reflect on the importance of dairy and the journey behind every glass of milk. This includes looking beyond the glass, back to the farms, the people, and the processes that make it all possible, as well as the role that dairy plays in nutrition, sustainability, and supporting local farming communities. Joining us today is Conny Sethaelo, Corporate Communications and Public Affairs Director for the Nestlé East and Southern Africa region. Conny, welcome to Farmers Inside Track, and thank you so much for joining us. Firstly, Conny, the recent World Milk Day campaign encourages families to look beyond the glass. For listeners who might just see milk as a supermarket staple, can you just walk us through what that journey actually looks like from a local farm like Skimmelkrans to the factory in Mossel Bay?
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa Kanya. So when we say look beyond the glass, we are inviting consumers to understand that every glass of milk represents an entire value chain of people, care, and also expertise. The journey starts on local farms like Skimmelkrans, as we mentioned, where dairy farmers focus on animal care, feed quality, and responsible farming practices to produce high-quality milk. So from there, the milk is then transported to the Mossel Bay factory, where it undergoes rigorous quality and safety checks to ensure it meets Nestlé standards before being processed into products that you know, like Nespray. So this end-to-end system actually reflects Nestlé's dairy plan, which connects every stage of the value chain from farm to factory to improve quality, sustainability, and resilience. So it is also a practical example of creating shared value, where farmers, processors, and communities all play a role in delivering nutrition to families.
One of your articles actually mentions that Nespray is made from 100% locally sourced milk from over 96 farms across the Eastern Cape and Western Cape. Why is keeping production strictly local so vital, not just for freshness, but for supporting South African agricultural communities?
First of all, local sourcing is very critical for several reasons, so I'll just touch on a few. So firstly, it ensures freshness and quality as milk moves from farm to factory, preserving nutrients and maintaining safety standards. Secondly, it plays a direct role in supporting local economies, something that is very important. So Nespray sources from over 96 South African dairy farms, creating a strong local value chain that supports jobs, livelihoods, and rural development. So this is a clear example of creating shared value in practice, where sourcing decisions strengthen communities while also securing high-quality ingredients for the business. So it ensures that value is retained within South Africa, benefiting farmers, workers, and their broader communities.
I'm glad you touched on care and expertise earlier on. So moving on, Conny, we hear a lot about low-carbon practices in modern farming. Farms like Roehavel and Oakdale Agricultural High School were highlighted as leaders in this space. What do these practices actually look like on the ground, and how can a dairy farm reduce its carbon footprint without actually hurting production?
So low carbon practices are increasingly rooted in regenerative agriculture, focusing on improving efficiency while also reducing environmental impact without compromising productivity. So on the ground, this would look like optimizing feeds to reduce emissions. It'll look like managing manure to reduce methane and even convert waste into energy or fertilizer. It's also about improving soil health through practices like soil cover and reduced tillage, and also integrating trees to improve biodiversity and carbon capture. So at the core of all of this is regenerative agriculture, which actually focuses on restoring soil health so it can store more carbon, improving water retention and resilience to climate change, enhancing biodiversity and ecosystem health. So through the Nestlé Dairy Plan, these practices are already delivering measurable results. I mean, as we speak, we see a 26% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions across the dairy value chain, and also around 25% reduction in methane emissions. So importantly, these approaches often improve productivity and lower costs, showing that sustainability and efficiency can actually go hand in hand, and that farming can both produce high quality milk and restore the environment at the same time.
In addition, Conny, There is often an assumption that high-volume farming hurts the environment. How do modern South African dairy farms prove that they can maintain strict quality and safety standards while still actively participating in environmental preservation?
So modern dairy farming shows that quality, productivity, and sustainability are interconnected, not competing priorities. So through the dairy plan, Nestlé works with farmers to integrate best practices across animal welfare, environmental management, and milk quality. So this includes better nutrition for cows, improved veterinary care, and careful monitoring of production processes. At the same time, regenerative agriculture practices are being adopted at scale. As it is, 34% of dairy ingredients already coming from farms implementing these methods.
And the dairy sector is a massive employer, right? In the Mossel Bay area alone, the supply chain employs over 1,000 people and supports more than 13,000 individuals. So beyond just producing milk, how crucial is the dairy farming sector to the economic stability of South Africa's rural economies?
So the dairy sector plays a very critical role in rural economic stability. So beyond just direct employment, it supports entire ecosystems of workers, suppliers, and service providers. So in the Mossel Bay value chain alone, the sector supports over 1,000 jobs and more than 13,000 livelihoods, as we mentioned earlier. So this demonstrates its widening socio-economic impact. Through initiatives like the dairy plan, Nestlé also invests in farmer training, skills development, and business support, which then helps farmers build resilience and operate more sustainably over the long term. So this is central to creating shared value where strengthening rural economies ensures both community well-being and long-term supply chain stability.
It's also fascinating to see Oakdale Agricultural High School mentioned as a supplier. How important is it for the future of South African farming that we actually involve agricultural schools in commercial supply chains early on?
So involving agricultural schools is essential for building the next generation of farmers. By integrating institutions like Oakdale Agricultural High School into commercial supply chains, learners gain real-world experience in modern farming practices, including sustainability, animal welfare, and quality management. So this supports long-term sector resilience by ensuring that future farmers are equipped with the skills and knowledge needed to manage farms as sustainable businesses. It also aligns with the dairy plan's focus on supporting farmer livelihoods and fostering generational continuity in agriculture.
Turning to nutrition, Conny, a lot of focus is often placed on toddlers, right? But this initiative specifically highlights school-age children between the ages of 7 and 14. Why is milk and specifically micronutrients like iron, zinc, and vitamins so critical during this specific phase of a child's development and schooling?
First of all, the ages between 7 and 14 are critical periods for both physical growth and cognitive development. So during this stage, children require consistent intake of essential nutrients to support learning, concentration, and overall health. So milk plays an important role as a nutrient-dense food, and products such as Nespray are fortified with essential micronutrients, including iron, zinc, and multiple vitamins to support these needs. So these nutrients contribute to immune function, cognitive development, and sustain energy levels, all of which are critical for school performance and healthy development.
Broadly speaking, Conny, South Africa faces unique challenges with nutrition and food security. What role does fortified dairy play in terms of combating widespread nutritional gaps in school-going children across the country?
Fortified dairy products play an important role in helping to address these nutritional gaps, particularly where access to diverse diets may be limited. So by enriching milk with essential vitamins and minerals, products like Nespray help deliver accessible nutrition that supports growth and development in school-going children. So this aligns with Nestlé's broader purpose of enhancing quality of life through food and its creating shared value approach, which actually focuses on improving nutrition outcomes while making products accessible and affordable.
Then the ongoing campaign does ask families to ask the good question about where their food comes from. Why is it becoming increasingly important for the modern consumer to care about the ethics, sustainability, and origins behind the brands they buy?
Interestingly, consumers today are more informed and are increasingly looking for transparency on how their food is produced. So understanding where food comes from and how it is made allows consumers to make choices that align with their values, right? And whether that is supporting local farmers, protecting the environment, or ensuring ethical practices. So through initiatives like the Dairy Plan and the World Meal Day campaign, Nestlé is responding to this expectation by providing greater transparency and demonstrating how sustainability, quality, and nutrition are linked across the value chain.
And lastly, Connie, looking past World Milk Day and toward the rest of the year, what is the ultimate legacy the dairy sector wants to leave for the next generation of South African consumers and future farmers?
So the long-term legacy is to build a dairy sector that is resilient, one, sustainable, and inclusive. So through our Nestlé Dairy Plan, the focus is on advancing regenerative agriculture to protect natural resources, supporting farmers with skills, income, and resilience, ensuring long-term supply of high-quality, nutritious milk. So that's already happening at scale. I mean, with over 130 farmers globally supported and measurable progress in reducing emissions and improving sustainability. So ultimately, the goal is to create a system where farmers can thrive, communities are strengthened, and consumers have access to safe, nutritious products, reflecting a true creating shared value approach for generations to come.
You've been listening to Farmers Inside Track, Food from Mzansi's podcast in partnership with Nestlé Nespray. A special thank you to Conny Sethaelo for sharing valuable insights into South Africa's dairy industry, the importance of good nutrition, and the vital role local farmers play in nourishing our nation. Join us again for our next episode as we continue bringing you the stories, voices, and innovations shaping agriculture across Mzansi. I'm Lisa Kanyavena. Thanks for listening.